With so many different platforms,
TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube,
and their purposes evolving daily, navigating social media can be, well, complicated. Welcome to the Social Media Sucks podcast from Cubco,
social media really sucks.
where we unpack the latest trends and help remove the suck from social media.
Hi, I'm your host, Haura, and welcome to the Social Media Sucks podcast. Today we will be talking about how Meta will change the social connection, and with me I have our CEO and social media wizard / expert,
Wow.
Chris Governess.
That's setting the bar pretty high. Hi, how's everybody doing?
And on the other side, and by the way, Chris is joining from New York City, and there's a story behind that. And in the Copenhagen office, I have our lead strategist, Andy Damian.
Hey everyone.
All right, so today's topic is about Meta, and we're focusing specifically on the digital avatars. It might be a bit hard to already imagine how each one of us will have a digital avatar in the future, but we're starting an early conversation about that. And today we're going to focus about the digital social identity and why it will matter for us. And I will leave Chris and Andy to explain to us why we will need an avatar in the first place on Metaverse.
Oh, man.
Okay, so the first
I'm gonna leave that
question
to Andy.
is the first question then why we will need an
Yes.
avatar? Okay. I think
Yes.
it's a pretty simple reason is because we want to identify ourselves no matter where we are. We want to be identifiable, and we want people to be able to, by any chance, they overcome us again in that huge space that the metaverse will be, sort of know who we are and what we might be identified based on. I think there's quite a lot of evolutionary stuff that goes as deep as, different types of biases and stigmas that are all connected to how we are identifying ourselves, how we are aiming to be perceived by others, and then how we are perceiving others as well. I think these identificational factors, such as the avatars, will make it much easier for us to understand who we are talking to and perhaps even understand if we want to talk to that person.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's also maybe it's like in real life, you always want to see the face behind a certain voice or someone, and like having a profile photo on your CV or any social media platform. Otherwise, you might look like a creeping around on the digital space.
Yeah, I think especially as the digital era is advancing, not having a profile photo became one of the, first red flags. And imagine how that would be in the metaverse when you are just like a blank, I don't know, white human body, or I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, but people will have that skin, right? There will be. I think what's interesting is that we've always had a digital persona or digital, not always, but since the invention of the internet. I mean, even on chat forums, the first, stuff, everyone. You had a profile name or you had a profile icon, and your choice there was sort of an expression of who you want to be or who you are. And that hasn't really changed now with sort of the metaverse. It's just getting deeper and deeper. And you could even say social has been going this way for a while, right? Because we all present some sort of version of ourselves online. Now with the sort of metaverse, you're able to digitize it even more. So it's not necessarily, a photo or an illustration, but it's a 3D version avatar of what you want to be or perceived as. And that's just the next level.
Yes. Have you guys seen the video that Mark Zuckerberg introduced when he introduced Metaverse? It was like a glimpse of how it will look like.
Yeah.
And it looked like almost like an identical real version of him, like his virtual 3D avatar. It looked so real.
Right. But I don't think
Yes.
I don't think the majority of things is going to be that. I think the majority will be, versions of yourself that are
Enhanced.
extra enhanced, and also why would you, I mean, obviously for your life, like you'll have separations. So you'll, just like you have a different persona on Instagram, or you're maybe a different persona on your Facebook, depending on which universe you're in, you will decide like, okay, if I'm on this like more gaming, more sort of something free time type of thing, I might put on my like, jacked robot, ninja, afro version of myself. And
That's a cool
that's me.
insight, I think.
Yeah, I think like you will choose different
Wow.
avatars based on the universe you're exploring and in, based on that. And we see that already. Like how I act on LinkedIn is much different than I act on Instagram or Facebook, and that'll be the same with the metaverse, and you'll just choose a different skin.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Wouldn't you say that's what's going
Yeah.
to happen?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it, and the more I thought about it, the more it made sense, and that's why I was like, that's crazy. But it's true. I think that's exactly what's gonna happen.
It's already sort
Yeah.
of happened, right? Like if we look at some of the virtual rooms and the things like that, like people are building themselves out in a different way than they present
Yeah,
themselves somewhere
yeah.
else,
I
right?
mean, I think it's gonna be just interesting that like what are going to be then the factors that are sort of like dictating. Like also, for example, for on like let's say on virtual teams rooms, like you need to be this like more professional avatar of yourself, but how can people tell if if that is actually more professional? Like how are we going to set up these standards? That's maybe my question. I think more for the future. I think it's gonna be quite
Well, that'll just
interesting.
get blurry, more blurry and blurry. Like if we take the professional life, I mean, take 30, 40 years ago, like if you weren't in a suit and tie working at a company, you weren't like, people were like, if you showed up in a t-shirt and jeans, people would be like, who is this Yahoo? But nowadays, like t-shirt and jeans, like business casual is sort of standard, right? And it'll be the
Yeah.
same in the sort of virtual world where we'll, eventually it'll be all buttoned up. Like you'll be on Facebook, you'll be in like LinkedIn metaverse, and you'll be like all buttoned up and like quite, maybe business casual, like representation of the times. But then time will pass and it'll be like people will show up in their, World of Warcraft orc suits, and they'll be
Imagine
like,
imagine forgetting to set your avatar to your professional one and you just like show up and like you're this like mega jacked
yeah, but
robot.
this will happen. Like this is we've seen that in real life, and we'll see it in, because people show up with like, their tattoos are showing. Like 40 years ago, if I was like in a business meeting with a CEO and I had my tattoos out, people would be like, this guy is a sailor or he's a criminal. Um, but now, like I can be in a
Yeah.
boardroom with high powered CEOs and board members, and it's no problem. It's the same in the
Yeah.
virtual
Yeah.
world.
Cool.
It's like new norms, new ways of doing things that normalize,
Yeah.
new things. And that actually leads to my next question, that when we're gonna have these different avatars, or maybe one avatar but different styles, I guess it's gonna depend on the person if they wanna be or become different avatars in metaverse, or be the same person but dress differently and embody these different personality, as what you mentioned before, Chris. But why? I mean, we know like from our real life that we do care about how we look like and how we represent ourselves, even if we are among our family, friends, or work. And how are we gonna? Yeah, why would our digital identity matter online, and like what the science behind it from a consumer behavior perspective, maybe?
You
I
want to take
mean,
that, Andy?
yeah, I mean, if I would need to take a crack at this one, I would be probably looking towards how we are always trying to identify ourselves related to certain categories, or you could say tribes, or social circles, depending on either where we are coming from or where we are headed to. And I think this is also like why we are going to go in this direction also with our avatars, or you could say. I think it's essentially about signaling, and I think signaling is always just going to be something like super, very much rooted in our own psyche, and very dependent on what do we want to actually portray. And I think this is also why I think these digital avatars are going to be tricky, because you could essentially almost, if it's not going to be exclusive enough, you could essentially almost portray yourself as anything. And for example, if I'm just like starting with like the example of NFTs, it could be quite crazy to see that like maybe in the future it's gonna be, you know, like us like normal people looking completely normal in this digital world, and it's gonna be like the super exclusive like top 10% of people, let's say, who could actually, you know, afford themselves to have like a 3D board ape avatar or something like crazy but also super cool. And that would be also sort of like virtue signaling that like, hey, listen, I'm like up here.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think like psychologically people have always wanted to, they buy or they wear stuff. Like even if we look at old, anthropological studies on tribes, the jewelry that you wear or the garments that you have signaled your status and your occupation and your craft and whatever it is that you are. So we've always used that as a human race, and I think it's not going to be much different in the virtual world. What I think is, and also we already do that sort of today in some ways from showing off our sort of digital assets. The NFT thing is a good example, right? Where people are showing off that they have a bored ape or they have a whatever they have. We also see that on a smaller scale, for example, when people do their sort of Spotify wrap up, right? They're showing, it's not even their own assets, it's just what they listen to, what they consume from a digital media standpoint is virtue signaling or value signaling to say, hey, this is what I'm interested in, this is what I listen to, look how cool I am, or look how different I am, or look at whatever it is, right? So we do a lot of that stuff already today. What I think is going to be interesting from a NFT standpoint, and where I think we're going to get some cool things come out, is like making garments or making apparel or making a shoe or making a jewelry or making a car in the physical world is tough. Like I can't go out and make my own. I can go out and make my own motorcycle, but it would take me months and months and months, and I don't have the expertise. However, with digital technologies, I can make myself a 3D bike pretty easy. In fact, today I could go out and get three-dimensional mock-ups of anything that I want. If I want a helicopter, I could go out and get a 3D rendering of a helicopter and do whatever I want to it, paint it, do like crazy shit. It's the same with sort of digital clothing in some ways. The sort of like barrier to entry is really low when it comes to digital asset creation. And we can see that also with NFTs, like they're just being created with an algorithmic formula that is just like, hey, take this pair of sunglasses and this, this picture of an ape and this picture of that and this, and like basically blend it all together and give me 40,000 different permutations of it. So I think what's interesting is like, yes, there's going to be these like ultra class things that's like, do you buy this pair of Nikes produced by Nike, authorized by Nike, crypto chain, blockchain approved, or do you make your own stuff? And I think there's going to be a much bigger sort of makers community or makers sort of thing that's going to explode, because people will just be like, but I don't need to sew the fabric. I can just build these things using my own mind and the digital tools that I have that almost everybody has nowadays. I don't have to go buy a sewing machine. I don't even know how to use it. So I think like that's where I think things get really cool in the virtual world, which I think we'll see explosions of the creator economy of digital wearables, if you want to call it that.
I think we already see that
It's like
also with like the advancement of being content driven already on like a societal level, because I think now if you're a creator you can sort of like build up somewhat of a following, and then nowadays I think what we see more and more is that if you actually have a following, that sort of already tells people that like, okay, this person is like better to be friends with. And then I think it's okay, so this is kind of weird, but like back from the times when I had been sort of like actively trying to grow my following, and I think maybe this is something that you also experience, Chris, but it's quite crazy that if you have sort of like a larger network or larger following, some people would try to sort of like be more friendly with you in ways. So
Yeah, it's social status, right? Like people
yeah,
want to be
it's social status. I think
friends
that's
with the cheerleaders. If we're talking about like a really, stereotypical teenage, Hollywood movie, everyone wants to be friends with the cheerleader and the
Popular ones.
quarterback and
Yeah.
the popular kids because they have some sort of
yeah,
social clout,
and I think this
right? It's the same thing online.
yeah, and this is exactly going to feed into, I think, how social status will evolve and what it is going to be based on.
Would you guys, I mean, it might be difficult to, like, for me now, I cannot imagine myself being a bored ape, like 3D bored ape. I think I would rather stay like myself on the digital
I would be a
space.
bored ape.
But that was my question. Like, would you be one of these, like, weird characters, online?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd be like somebody from The Witcher or
Chris the
somebody
Witcher.
from a
Yeah,
TV show that I like. Yeah, I would.
yeah,
I mean, but like I said, it's only in certain spaces. I think like that's where you get to play
yeah,
around with. I mean, what's interesting is like there's people think that your identity is sort of solid and that I think it's a fluid concept
Yeah,
of who you are, and it is like ever changing as we grow and we as develop and as we and also who we are with our parents versus who we are with our friends or who we are with our teachers or who we are with our colleagues. We're all you know permutations of ourselves in different ways. Like we bring out certain things, and I wouldn't say we're different, but we're we might be more you know quiet or not as boisterous with our family because we don't want to overshadow somebody in the family, or we don't want to whatever it is, like. And then with our friends we might be extremely outgoing and really the party the party goer. So we all have these facets of ourselves, and I think that's how we're going to play out in the digital life as well. We're going to choose what mask am I wearing today, sort of
yeah.
thing, depending
Yeah,
on
I
the
think, I mean, I also know some things change. Like, of course, now I do not maybe dress the same way as I did 10 years ago or when I lived in another country versus living now in Denmark. So it's also my surroundings that influence
yeah,
how I dress or how I look to some extent, of course. So there would be this balance of me and the society. Um, and maybe now to me, I cannot imagine myself as a bored ape or anything else, but I think also perhaps not only for me, for other people, the more we get into the metaverse and the more we get used to interact with other different characters, the more we would also think it's normal to be these different characters.
Yeah. I think what's
Yeah,
going to be interesting is also like relationship building in the metaverse as well. And like,
that's interesting.
you
Yeah.
know, online dating already exists, like with chat and stuff like that. But then it's going to be obviously, these are already happening, virtual dates. And actually, Roblox kind of got hit a few weeks ago with the fact that, I mean, it's a kids game and there's some activity in there that's clearly adult activity. And I don't really want to unpack all of it today on the podcast, but for yourselves listening, go take a look at the news on Roblox and adult content. I mean, these sort of virtual, relationships are happening, and they're going to happen even more. And I'm interested to see also, like, are we going to have the first marriage in the metaverse in the next coming years? Are we going to have the first whatever? Like, I have no idea. The first divorce in the metaverse happening in the next few years. So this is, I mean, it's new territory. It's very exciting, but it's also,
Yeah.
yeah. And from a
Yeah.
consumer standpoint, there's also just going to be tons of services that you can buy and things that are, related to the metaverse. If, you want somebody to build you a house in the metaverse, they will do that. You want somebody to clean your house in the metaverse. I don't know if it needs cleaning, but it probably will. I mean, I think there's also going to be
Yeah.
digital trash. Like somebody will come in your house and like or dump trash on your
clean that
lawn, and they'll
data
be
up.
like, Yeah, I need this cleaned up. Someone dumped, digital French fries on my yard, and I don't want to spend 3 hours cleaning it up because it's gonna happen. Like it's so crazy, but it
Yeah.
it will
It
happen.
might become even easier to scam people when it comes to finding a date in Metaverse. I don't know, but it's already happening now. And
Yes,
now you would meet an avatar that looks a certain way, and you don't know how the person in real life looks like.
but I
But
don't
I
know if people
also,
will care in the future. I think like that's what's also interesting is that we
so the
might get.
relationship would live online only, and perhaps not ever in real life. I don't know,
Yeah,
or
and
have
also
double.
yeah, but it also could be like, you know, the person's personality has to then be, you have to really, because you will know that this is not them in reality, right? So it's you have to be attracted to their what they say and what they do and who they are, and so that's also kind of interesting, right? As we move in that direction, it's
Yeah,
actually going to be less focused on maybe like how you look. Social status will still play a part of it because it'll still be like, oh, I'm dating this bored ape guy, and I know he's rich because he's got a bored ape skin. You know what I mean? Or I'm dating this girl, and I know she's rich because she's got this whatever skin.
yeah,
Like it's so crazy, but it's gonna
yeah.
happen.
It
Like
is.
it's already happening.
It is.
Sorry, we went off
I,
topic there a bit.
Yes, no, but it's, I mean, because eventually I think many aspects of life are also going to be transferred to Metaverse. Like you would have a house, friends, parties, and maybe also travel into different destinations together with your friends or whomever you want to do that with on Metaverse. So, yeah, I guess a big part of life is going to be there. But then also from a psychological perspective, it's also the question how it will affect people because reality is inevitable, so we would still be living reality versus metaverse. And if we have everything we actually wanted but cannot have it in real life, and then on metaverse we're maybe this happy person, but when we are off metaverse, maybe not because we don't have all
But I
these
think it's not
things.
necessarily just with the metaverse. That's something that is, I think, widespread across social media already. You never know. I keep on telling people, like, you never know what's the difference between someone's real life and what they are portraying of themselves on social. And then reality in itself, and now that you brought up the psychological perspective, I think reality is so different from person to person because we are all essentially living our own realities. It's kind of crazy if you want to go down this rabbit hole, which I would suggest not to do for just purely the length of this podcast. But yeah, I think
We're getting philosophical, folks, on the Social Media Sucks
yeah, I
podcast.
mean, I think there will be some definite need for counseling on the metaverse and the mental health issues it will raise.
Yeah, we already see social
Yeah.
media doing that,
Yeah,
right?
and it's a huge topic.
Great.
Yeah, I assume so. Chris, I have a question to what you mentioned before that we know already there are brands on Metaverse like Nike, Adidas, and also some luxury brands like Gucci and others.
Yeah.
And if it's gonna be so easy for people to create their own items online and then there are the brands, how do you guys like what are your opinions or prediction of the consumer brand relationship on metaverse? Will people continue to buy digital items, or yeah, would that be maybe a competitive space between creators and
I
brands?
think brands will need to step it up. I think also just like to tie back to what Chris said, and it's really great that you brought this back because I'm also super curious to see what Chris says about it. But I think the power of brands essentially will start decreasing.
Oh, you
I
think
think
so? Hey,
so.
um, I don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is a really good question, and I don't know the answer necessarily, but I think we have seen brands play a big part in our lives. It is the signal valuing. It is the sort of like, okay, I'm wearing this, therefore I, attribute to this tribe, and that's across the board. We see that. and I don't think it's going away anytime soon. But what I do think is the faking of digital, like the faking of those products, those brands, will increase, and the issue will be, how does a brand fight that in the metaverse? Because you could literally, I mean, when you talk about digital copies, I mean, that's a big issue. I mean, like when we looked at, for example, if you just look at the music industry, the invention of Napster, the invention of the MP3 was basically the starting point of digital asset copying, and we didn't have that sort of before, right? So it became way easier to steal copyrighted material, and I don't think that's with the metaverse. I think that's just going to increase that, because essentially you could make something that looks like a pair of Nikes or looks like a Lamborghini, because your ability to make those things is much easier. And I mentioned that before about sort of the creator economy of digital assets is going to explode, because people will be able to create things without having to own physical, sewing machines and physical leather work tools and all that. You don't need those. So I think what we're going to see is like brands are going to fight this similar to how the music industry had to fight Napster. They're going to have to get lawsuits in place. Like it'll go crazy, because brands will basically be like, well, our brand identity is just being, or our brand equity is just being eroded because of all these digital copies of our gear in the metaverse. How do we control this? How do we do something about this? And they'll have to sort this out. And I think it's going to be probably one of the biggest topics about the metaverse in the next coming years, is this brand equity discussion from every single brand on the planet. And I think the music industry is going to be like, we told you, we saw this coming, you guys did nothing about it, and now we're all fucked. I think they're going to say that, because it's exactly what happened to the music industry. And then there's going to have to be extra services like Spotify and iTunes and like that popped up to facilitate the purchase of these things while still keeping it real, and then managing royalties. And it'll be the same with, clothing, like, which will be interesting for brands. Is like, if somebody's wearing your gear in the metaverse, you will get a royalty, not just the sale, but you'll get a royalty on that, because they're out there sort of in the real world, and you can measure it because it's on them, and that they're in the metaverse. Therefore, we have a way of tracking these royalties. So that's going to be super interesting for brands as well, where they go to a royalties sort of purchasing sort of thing versus a, buy this one-time thing. So because it'll be too expensive for people because of the costs of actually litigation and managing the reality of, is this an actual Nike or a, Armani suit or whatever it is that person's wearing in the universe, in the metaverse. So I think the method, the model of business will actually change significantly to accommodate this.
Cool.
Maybe also, maybe like some of the policies or the ways that we're doing things in real life, maybe that will also be transferred to metaverse. Like you would also go to the Nike store and get yourself a pair of shoes. I also, as far as I understood from my research, that you can actually also transfer pictures and products from your physical world to the metaverse. So you might also transfer items you have into digital items that you could wear and interact with brands, maybe also a bit similar way to the real world, like you go and shop and buy things, but maybe, yeah, that would be the cryptocurrency or something else. I mean, it's a mystery. We don't know how things are going to be exactly, how we will interact with brands in the future. And yeah. I'm assuming it's not going to be maybe as easy to create something yourself. Maybe there is some specifics or some special things to do to be an entrepreneur on Metaverse instead of buying from other brands.
But I think any virtual products or physical products you buy nowadays will also give you the metaverse option. Like that'll happen in the next few years, where you buy this car, you buy this house, you buy this whatever it is, and here's your metaverse NFT version. That's kind of interesting, and then you could either hold on to that or you could sell it. The only real issue that I have though is when it's tied to cryptocurrencies is that, it's not a solid foundation for goods and services because it is such a fluctuating price tag, right? So actually having a marketplace that is reliable is really tough on any current cryptocurrency right now, because the price of bread today in the metaverse might go from one cryptocurrency, whatever that is, to 10 the next day, and it's like, well, I can't afford bread in the metaverse anymore. Like the inflation rates and the differences from day to day is just too chaotic. Like you can never have a reliable marketplace, and you can, based on that as well, you can never have a reliable system of work, and then you can never have a reliable system of government within the metaverse, because the currency is fluctuating so much that policy and sort of day-to-day life is not possible. So I really worry about it being tied to cryptocurrency. I think there will have to become a time where cryptocurrency is more tied to physical real-world currency, or altogether sort of removed, and it's only real-world currency that's used in the metaverse.
Yes.
Sorry, that's a little boring, but
No,
that's how I
it's super interesting. There's a lot of mystery, and we don't know how things are really, how they will fold out, what kind of policies and rules will live on Metaverse, how the actual interaction. So far, many are predicting and sharing their opinions and how things are going to be, but no one knows how the reality on digital is going to be at the end, and we don't know how soon that is going to happen. We would also like to hear that from our viewers and listeners. What are your opinions and feedback to this? And will you also be coming to Metaverse as a 3D Bored Ape or a lion or something else, or maybe just yourself? Share those things with us.
Like I'm gonna make my avatar look
Probably
like
you
Andy.
can.
It's gonna be awesome.
That's going to be interesting because people are already impersonating celebrities that look alike. Maybe on Metaverse it's going to be even easier to just copy paste
Yeah, I'm gonna
faces
so sell out.
and
If you
appear
wanna
as
look
someone.
like me, $10. $10.
I gotta get the laugh down there. Can you train me
Yeah,
how
I
to
think
do
I'm
the
gonna
laugh?
actually start recording audio that you can, like, with a keyboard or with like a special key, just like play, and just like sort of have to like
That's
mimic
it.
laughing. I'm already okay. I see. All right, I already see models for making money on this. I love this discussion already. Thanks, guys.
You can buy the model skin. You can be like, you could be Paris Hilton for a day.
Yeah.
$200.
Yeah, who knows? Everything we don't know yet.
Selling
Yes.
identities. That's kind of a cool
Yeah.
idea.
I only wish it wouldn't be sort of like a
Dangerous.
criminal activity.
No, but it could be like you
Yeah.
could, like, obviously, you wouldn't be the real LeBron James, but you'd look like him for a day.
Oh, like subscription-based identities. Ooh. Okay.
You're taking it too far, guys.
Now we're thinking, dude.
There is something to it.
We should. This is the business
Yeah.
model. This is the new business
I like
model.
that now in every podcast episode we just keep on coming up with new business ideas. We should keep this going.
I will
Yeah.
keep a journal to for
Cool.
all of the ideas in case you run out of business. You have the next idea
All
in
right.
line. Yes. Well, we have reached the end of this episode. Thank you all for watching and listening. Please share your feedback with us, likes, and remember to subscribe if you want more content like this. If you guys have final words, feel free
No
to share.
final words. Take care, everybody.
Alright.
Bye.
Be good to
Thank
yourself
you.
in the metaverse and outside of the metaverse.
Think about your signaling.
Thanks, everybody.
See you. Bye.
This has been the Social Media Sucks Podcast.